but can't see an end in sight? Well, what if I told you that in truth, you don't owe a single penny, and that the banks know this and hope you don't find out? Here's where we come in. Free2Prosper.com specializes in a profound debt repudiation method which challenges the validity of your so-called debts, morally frees you from the burdens, and protects your property. Our system is often superior to settlement, bankruptcy, or consolidation, which often leave you in a worse situation. If you feel the moral obligation to take care of yourself and your family, then I urge you to consider taking action right now. The economy will not wait. If you want to know more so you can prosper through the economic collapse, all while staying honorable and true to yourself, then call 877-417-8393. That's 877-417-8393. Or visit Free2Prosper.com right now.
Make sure and listen to the P.A. Monsanto Show every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Intel Hub News Network.
In a world where corrupt oppressors and oligarchs have seized control of the populations, total tyranny is amongst us. The burden of humanity rests on our shoulders. The only way out is to expose the global crime syndicate known as the New World Order. Together, we are all one. Together, we are Intel soldiers. The battle for free humanity ensues. Join us in the fight. TheIntelHub.com.
Welcome back, folks. What a treat it is to have Bob Chapman on the show, and I'm always grateful to have his input and his sound advice when he comes on. But without further ado, folks, the incredible, the one, the only, John King with King's Court. John, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Well, if I said it once, I will say it again. I will remind the people that I said February 14th, 2011 will be the point of no return. The economy is being falsely propped up, and the American people are being lied to by the mainstream media about how bad things really are. The streets of Egypt, as well as other countries in the Mideast, are ripe with revolt as people protest high unemployment and better standards of living. These things will soon be here in the streets of the U.S. Commodity prices for corn, wheat, and oil are still rising, and the food manufacturers have been eating the losses, pun intended. This can only be done for so long as the costs must be passed on to the consumer. The prices of many food products are rising, and the ones that are not rising, if you look closely enough, you will notice smaller packaging. It's like that big bag of potato chips for $3, but 80% of the bag is CO2. The Fed has now surpassed China in buying its own debt. The writing is on the wall. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. Have you purchased any gold or silver for when, not if, but when the collapse happens? Have you tucked away any food rations? Some say 6 months' worth of supplies. What about heat supplies? Many people claim to be awake and are well aware of what's going on with the wanton destruction of our nation, but they fail to take the warning themselves, and many people proclaim prepare now, but have not done anything to prepare themselves. That's like taking driving lessons from a person who has never sat behind the wheel of an automobile. If you haven't taken the step to prepare, do you really think you deserve my mercy? What will you say to your wife or your husband or your children when they come and ask what's for dinner and your cupboards are as bare as old Mother Hubbard's? I ask you, Why is it that many distinguished economists like Mr. Bob Chapman have been sounding the alarm bell, and the mainstream media has done everything in their power to contradict evidence of a pending economic disaster? It's simple. There's a political agenda at work. How you can turn on your TV news station and get a totally different view from the other TV station news stations. The truth, however, has only one view, and that truth is spoken here. The Federal Reserve has monetized the debt, despite Ben Bernanke's sworn testimony that the Federal Reserve would not monetize the debt. Since the summer of 2010, corn has risen 103%, cotton 173%, oats 121%, wheat up 105%, soy up 62%, copper up 68%, rice up 74%, and yes, lumber is up 64%, and there are 44 million Americans on food stamps. Look at the prices. They are starting to skyrocket, and hyperinflation is knocking at the door. Mr. Chapman is not the only economist to be sounding the alarm. Many economists worldwide are saying the same thing. The point of no return is quickly approaching. Keep an eye on the Middle East and Europe, as we will soon see what Thomas Jefferson meant when he said, "Trade with many, but ally with none." Joe, back to you.
Thank you, John. Griff, you've been eerily silent tonight.
Yes, I've been listening.
Well, it's kind of got me a little bamboozled. I know you're not feeling well, but what do you think about what's going on? I mean, do you feel honestly? This is my gut feeling. My gut feeling is they need to destabilize that region, and the best way to do it is to take the most stable country over there, Egypt, and turn it upside down. What do you think?
I don't think the actions in Egypt in any way is designed for the good, for the benefit of the people. Governments don't work like that. I said early on about that it was caused and orchestrated, designed by government agencies, the CIA or the Israeli equivalent, or the KGB or the FSB or something like that. That's how it works. It just does not work the other way, to give people freedom and democracy. That is just ridiculous to think that. The people would think that because they don't understand how it works, you see. I wanted to comment on my repeated statement over the months about a dollar. I think it's very significant. It's not a small thing. It's very significant to realize that we don't have dollars. And everybody goes back in after they agree, yes, we don't have dollars, and they start calling it a dollar. It's not a dollar. It's extremely important to realize that from the very get-go, we're being lied to and bamboozled to think that what we have had for the past 100 or so years or 200 years were dollars. They're not. They're not dollars. It's a promissory note with no promise, right, which makes the whole situation that much worse.
Now, I agree with you.
It is profound, Joe. It's profound to realize
it's totally profound, sure. But when you speak to people that have no frame of reference, you have to use that as a frame of reference because that's all they know.
No, you don't.
Well, that's all they know.
Then you have a problem with the receivers not receiving. I said a long time ago, I think somebody else said it 100 years ago, it is futile for the transmitter to transmit if the receivers don't receive. And I think that's what we have out here. Right. Another thing I thought of today, Joe, this is I say this very seriously. Let me get into it before you snicker at me. That was also a candy bar, by the way.
I'll mute my microphone.
Yes. I talked about having toilet paper. Yes. If you had gold bars and you ran into a guy and you wanted toilet paper and he had a truckload of toilet paper, you would give the gold bars for the toilet paper because he would be the only game in town. It doesn't matter what the gold is worth. It only matters that you want the toilet paper.
And that's
you would trade him gold.
That's if he's willing to accept it.
Well, what is he going to do for the alternative? If that's right. But you see my point.
Sure, of course.
It has nothing to do with value of the gold.
No,
Another
you're talking from a barter standpoint, which is what you trade. You trade for goods and services, and that's what the paper currency is all about. Is some way to put your labor onto a piece of paper. Now, it ain't worth anything because all you got is a piece of paper when all's said and done that promises you nothing, which is like you say. But until people go to Walmart and they go to pay for the stuff in their cart and they don't take dollars, you're never going to get that public awareness. It's just not going to happen.
That's because the people that do that are as dumb as stumps, and you could stand there and talk to them for days, and they wouldn't understand what you were saying. But the paper is worth nothing, and coming into the future, you're going to see that very pronounced. It's going to be worth nothing. Another thing I want to put into my equation of toilet paper and tampons, you could be rich if you had truckloads of toilet paper and tampons coming into the future. Seriously, you could. Now, the next thing, and I've thought about this today, is condoms. Now, when the pharmacies dry up and there are no more birth control pills available, you've got 300 million people just in the United States. I don't know what percentage are young girls of birth age, but you're going to have a few million people with no birth control. Now, when the food shortages really start seriously and living becomes kind of crunchy from day to day with no supplies coming in, no food, then what are you going to do when babies start appearing in great numbers with no birth control? Millions of babies, because you're not going to stop that. You're not going to stop it.
That's a very
I challenge you to.
No, that's an interesting thought. I'm thinking, end of the world's coming, everybody's going to be kind of suffering a little bit. The first thing that doesn't come to my mind is go down and grab a stockpile of Trojans, That's just
well, I'm here to help you.
Things.
I'm here to help you.
It's a very it's a very, very interesting thought. I'm going to ponder that a little bit. Now, when did you come up with this idea? Is this something that you just recently thought of?
I'm actually thinking about things that nobody else thinks about.
Yes, I know.
And these are profound. These are very profound. I would rather have these three items than cans of orange juice or loaves of bread. I really would.
Think about the just say at the turn of the century or even before that, Wild West, the disease that ran rampant, syphilis and all that. That was crazy. There was no cure for that kind of stuff. And people went insane. They lost their mind. They said, you got to cure for that, too. Just go ahead and buy a stockpile of Trojans and you'll be fine. That's the thing,
I would get the kind without lubrication. Now, there's a reason for that. If you get the kind with lubrication, they tend to go rancid or go bad faster than the condoms without the lubrication. So you can stockpile and have them over a longer period of time, just plain without lubrication. I'm serious. I'm not doing this for the shock value.
John King, if you're in an SHTF scenario, is the first thing that comes to mind for you prophylactics?
Well, let's see. The proverbial flu is hitting the fan. John King is facing his maker. He's imminent. He knows he's going to die. The first thing I'm going to reach for is the old lady, if she's around. The last thing I'm going to be worried about is where the heck did I put those Trojans?
Then what are you going to do with the babies?
Well, I don't think really. At that point, I don't think people are too concerned about that. That's
they
going to be that's going to be an oops after the fact type of concern.
Millions.
Yeah, I'm sure. How was it? Remember, think as though if you get knocked back 100, 200 years, you got to think like that. And how did they do it then? And that's